What's up, y'all? Welcome back to MSM Audio. I'm Tim. Thank y'all for tuning in. Today, I want to discuss 9 problems to avoid with parallel compression. My last couple videos, I had a good use case for parallel compression. I had a nice bass sound, an aggressive growling bass sound, and I wanted to add some harmonics to bring out more of that growling sound. Decided to use Supercharger GT, which is one of my favorite plugins right now, and it allows for some nice tonal shaping, but I was unable to focus in on very specific frequencies and decided to use parallel compression with some EQ, and that introduced a number of problems, right? For something so simple in theory, right? You take your original signal, duplicate it, compress it, carefully blend back into your original source. It introduces a number of issues if you're not careful. The first being phase and timing issues. Slightest misalignment can start to make things sound messy, and if it's totally out of phase, can make things really messy, right? More phasing issues can be introduced if your compressor introduces latency, if your routing introduces latency, if your DAW doesn't have plug-in delay compensation enabled, or if there's issues with it, that can cause some phasing issues as well. That was something new that I learned about. Second is masking and loss of clarity. If your blended signal, if you're blending in too heavily, you can drown out those transients and dynamics of the original sound source. So you got to be careful with the blending. The third is overcompression artifacts. Overcompression causes pumping, distortion. In my case, I wanted that distortion and some of those harmonics, but that may not be what you want depending on your style. Even still, again, having to be mindful of that blending and potential loss of dynamics, transients, etc. Fourth are tonal shifts. Introducing parallel compression can emphasize low end buildup. In my case, I had to carve out the low end, carve out the high end, and really focus on those mid frequencies, but still being mindful of potential phasing issues. The fifth is loss of dynamic contrast. Too much of a heavy blend of the duplicated signal can affect the dynamics of your overall mix and the feel of your overall mix, if you're not careful and take away from the feel of your track. Six is bus summing or gain stage errors. If your routing is done improperly, or if you're gain staging, if you're not mindful of the input and output of your signal, can lead to phasing, clipping, balancing issues. Seventh is misapplication across sources, being mindful of what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and is it even really needed, right? Does this really benefit? Am I enhancing my sound, my track, my mix by using parallel compression, right? Eight is overlapping with other mix bus processes, being mindful of any processes you're already using in your mix, and if I compound with parallel compression, am I just being redundant? Am I just making things more messy, more muddy, more cluttered, decreasing dynamics? Do I really need this? The ninth is unintended emotional flattening. Again, going back to knowing what you're doing, why you're doing it, and do I really need this, right? Blending that duplicated signal can decrease the dynamics, right? Uh, is it just making things louder? Does it make it feel better? That should be the priority, right? How does it feel, right? Just because something is louder does it make it better? Something I fell victim to, right? It makes it sound louder. You think you're doing something. No. Does it make it feel better? If it doesn't make it feel better, do I really need to add this technique? It may not make sense. I may be introducing unnecessary complexities, unnecessary problems. So, even though in theory The application seems simple. If you're not very careful, there are a number of problems that could be introduced and make things more difficult for your mix. And you may have to go back and essentially, take the time to fix things when it could have been avoided in the first place. So, thank y'all for tuning in. Stay positive, stay purposeful, stay creative, stay confident. Most of all, keep going. See you on the next one. MSM Audio.